maybe I have to rejoin. Sorry for that.
No, don't worry at all. There we go. We're recording now.
Awesome. Ben, shall I take over?
Please do.
Thank you, everybody, for coming through to the External Secrets Operator Meetup. This is our July 2022 Meetup. This happens to be the second Meetup in the series. We're hoping to have quite a few more coming. My name is Charles Plain. I'm a cloud native engineer with Container Solutions. And tonight we've got speakers from our sister company, Engineer Better, as well as Container Solutions. As always, with all our events, we do have a code of conduct. If you'd like to know more about it, you guys can scan the QR code, but it in summary is play nice, be nice. If not, we will remove you from the meeting. Following that, our presenters this evening will be Gustavo, giving us a quick project update. That's just the upcoming changes, a quick preview to the upcoming changes and what all is happening inside the ESO project. Following that, we will have Lily and Dom giving us a demonstration and presentation around the PushSecret capability. And that's a new feature that will be released inside ESO shortly. And then for those that would like to join the ESO project and the ESO community and start contributing to the project, Gustavo will be giving a contributing walkthrough. And without any further ado, I will hand over to Gustavo for the project updates.
Thanks, Charles. So hello to everyone. For those that do not know me yet, I'm Gustavo. I'm one of the maintainers at ESO. Just want to give you a little brief of project updates. The first one that I want to push is one that we discussed the last meetup, is actually the decoding strategy. Charles, if you may. Last meetup, we announced that the decoding strategy was one thing yet to come, and it now has been released on the v0.5.8 version. Charles, if you may, I want to do a quick demo on the feature, just to explain it, its value and a little bit.
Perfect. I will stop sharing. It's all yours.
Can you please tell me when you can see my screen, if the case is big enough?
Yeah, we got it.
Looks good.
Cool. So here we have two manifests. The first one is a secret store. Here in this case, it's just a fake secret store, just to be easy to provide data samples. Here we have some configuration to point the feature. The first thing that we have here is a key map with a variable that has been base64 encoded, a second variable with no encoding, and a third variable using base64 URL encoding mechanism. Right now, if I apply both the secret store and the external secret, these external secrets is currently using the decoding strategy none. This is like the standard one, is the current behavior for versions prior to 0.5.8. If I get the secret that I told to create, the secret was full bar, right? And if I try to get the first keyword here, which is the full, something will happen. So instead of actually loading yada, which will be the expected, we actually loaded the value as is. This is because of the whole twice base64 encryption that is happening. And this is because we also set external secrets decoding strategy to none. However, if I set it to auto, which is like the automatic method, and I try to get it again, now external secrets could understand that this type here was already base64 encoded, so it gave me the value of the base64 encoding. If I try to get the value from bar, we can see it is a string. And if I try to get the value from URL, we can see is this weird string here that would allow us to have a difference between the base64 versions. So it's a feature that is actually very useful. Before it, we would need to specify a template block here on the external secrets in order to decode the specific key that was base64 encoded. Right now, we can just simply set it directly on the manifest. It works both for a data operation and a data from operation. Charles, can you please give back the presentation? Thanks a lot. So some comments. Right now, this feature has 4 possibilities to encode, to decode. The first one is the none strategy. The other 2 ones are the 2 basic 64 decoding strategies. And the last one that I just showed is the auto strategy. These are just the ones that we started. If you miss any decoding strategy here that we think we should add, just open up an issue and we will be sure to include it. If you want to check more about the documentation of the decoding strategy, you can also check this QR code on your screen. The second update that I wanted to bring in terms of probably insider information is that yesterday on the community meeting, the maintainer meeting, we got to discuss a lot around secrets generation. There are some PRs for drafting it. There are a lot of feature requests that in the end of the day are pointing to secrets generation. So you should also probably see this major update sometime soon in the near future. Okay. And also, just as a reminder, we still have our main objective to release external secrets 1.0 by the end of the year. So currently the maintainer work that we are doing is focused on that. That was my update. Back to Charles. Oh, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to jump them right now. It's like you don't need to wait until the end of the meetup. Always interrupt me. I like that kind of flow, okay? I will give you now like 7 seconds of awkwardness. Okay, no questions. Awesome. So up to you, Charles.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those updates, Gustavo. I think we're really looking forward to what comes from the project next. And without any further ado, I will hand over to Dom and Lily to give us a preview of the PushSecret capability.
Cool. Let me just share my screen. Steal it from you. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
I think it's because you need to be promoted to co-host. Let us do that very quickly here.
Ah, there we go. Make it full screen, give it a little play. Cool. Hello, I'm Dominic. I'm a software engineer at Engineer Better, and I've been working on ESO for about 2 to 3 months now. I guess we can start with what is PushSecret, but a better definition would be just to go over ESO first. So ESO is, as I'm sure you all know, is a Kubernetes operator that allows you to sync secrets from various providers into your Kubernetes cluster. Providers being like AWS or HashiCorp or Bolt or GCP or Azure, there's a lot more. And currently the Beach team is working on a feature called PushSecret, which allows you to sync from your cluster to the aforementioned providers. It is an open source project, as we all know, so we always welcome contributions. Right, so I said the beach, just to give it a bit more context on what that is a beach over there. The beach is a place where you go when you're not on an engagement. At this moment, it consists of one product manager in Lade and a bunch of engineers who are mostly juniors, like myself. And it's where we've been developing PushSecret. So why this beach approach? What do we do on the beach? How do we approach developing PushSecret? So I think the main thing is we like mobbing a lot. We do a little bit of pair programming, but mobbing is definitely the main focus because it allows seniors to come and help the juniors out and drive when they're really stuck. And also when it's a bunch of juniors from different walks of earth, we all have different skill sets, and so we can help each other in overcoming the hurdles that we face on a day-to-day basis. Saying that though, the ethos behind the beach is that it's all about learning. Even if we make no progress on a ticket and you learn something, you had a good day on the beach. We switch between TDD and BDD, TDD being test-driven development, we write the test first, and BDD being behavior-driven development, where we write the code, the functions, the methods first. We tend to do BDD just because you tend to write tests when you know what you need to be coding. And as being juniors, we like to play around with the code base a little bit to get a better understanding of our surroundings. So yeah, so these things have been a great way to accelerate, just not mine, but I think everyone's learning. And those are very practical skills, ready to go out on client engagements and stuff like that. But it is talked about a lot these days, but it is important to go over the soft skills. I think I graduated from a web dev boot camp about a year ago. I've been working at Engineer Better for about 4 months. And in that time, I've spent a lot of time alone, getting used to the way I like to work, the time where I have the most energy during the day. And basically everything obviously fitted around my schedule. And so it's been a really good soft skill, having to juggle all the constant things changing in the team, because people get sent off on engagements or finish engagements and come in. The team is constantly changing. There's different skill sets. And so it's been really good to learn how to adapt to that type of environment. I guess that also goes hand in hand with people's availability. Sometimes, people aren't available for a large chunk of time. And it's usually the people, like, for example, for working on something to do with Kubernetes, it's usually the people who know the most about Kubernetes that seem to suddenly be unavailable for the week. And also time zones. We have Gustavo in Brazil, and we've got Amir in Egypt. We've got people scattered across Europe and Africa too. So that's also been interesting, juggling that. So another way to accelerate your learning, I'd say, is to talk about the challenges we face on the beach. I'd say this is more personal to me, though, even though I'm sure everyone's had this imposter syndrome. I think I remember day one was me, Gustavo, Will, and Gustavo just said a whole bunch of stuff which sounded a little bit like Kubernetes, Docker, Helm, Terraform, Golang, and I didn't know what any of those words meant. And it's been a really exciting journey to learn a new tech stack, learn how to think in terms of think like a DevOps engineer as opposed to a web dev, and yeah, just learn on the job. I think that's what's so great about this beach approach. Another challenge we face regularly, very regularly, is getting hard blocked. We all get blocked from time to time, but I really feel that on the beach, especially when it's just the juniors hanging about, we get hard blocked a lot. And Gustavo, being the main senior, is very busy a lot of the time. And I think he enjoys telling us to bang our head against the wall for a couple of hours before he swoops in and saves the day. I think he does that because sometimes we actually solve it by ourselves, and it's a lot better feeling that when we can actually figure it out, as opposed to Gustavo just giving one hint too many in helping us across the finish line. And then the last thing is, I think, knowing when to work on the project with the team or do self-learning. It was good just to learn how to balance that, because, as I said, on day one, I didn't know what Kubernetes was, so I needed now just to go and Google Kubernetes and find out what it was all about before I could jump back on and have a better understanding of what the team are doing. Cool. So how is the project structured? This is KubeBuilder. It's what we've been using to build our custom resources. It's an SDK, which is sounds fancy, but it means software development kit. And yeah, as I said, it's for building Kubernetes APIs in Go. It allows us to generate CRDs for our Kubernetes clusters, as I just mentioned, and the 3 CRDs which we use in ESO are secret store, external secret, and as of fairly recently, PushSecret. Yeah, so over here we have our manager. So the manager is an executable that wraps one or more controllers, but in this particular diagram, we just have the one controller, and it can be built or run locally against a remote cluster, or run as a container in a cluster. Then one level below, we have our controller, which implements the controllers implement APIs defined by the resources. So it's like Kubernetes controllers, like they run asynchronously after the resources have been written to storage, and then the Kubernetes controller it's like a routine running in a Kubernetes cluster that watches for events. We've got our events over there on resources, and that triggers a reconcile function in response. And there's our reconciler. So the next level down is our reconciler, which is a function that may be called at any time with a namespace or the name of any given object. It will make the cluster state match the state declared in the object spec, and upon completion, the reconciler updates the object status to the actual state of the object. So that sounded very complicated potentially, but I find that the more I stare at this, the more it makes sense, and it's a really useful tool in developing your own CRDs. Right, so this is where we were 3 months ago. We have our Kubernetes cluster, we got our ESO guy over there, we got our namespaces, and we are pulling secrets from the cluster. And what we've developed is this: we can now push secrets to our clusters. And before I get too ahead of myself, I should just specify that we've only finished working on GCP. We still have to work on a whole bunch of, all the other providers, as I've listed a few times before. So that's what we will be demoing in just a second. And this is the future. As you can see, this is what happens when ESO version 1 gets released at the end of this year. So just a heads up, which I'll show you in a minute, the push secret functionality is optional and experimental. So community feedback is really appreciated. And as I said earlier as well, this only works if people contribute. So we'd really appreciate any contributions in any shape or form. Cool, on to the demo. Stop sharing my screen. Okie dokie. So here we have our YAML files. We have, firstly, we have our secret store. As you can see, because it's a Google Cloud project, we have our project ID at the end of the file. And that is called Kubernetes Cluster ESO. It's the cluster we've been using in development. And a secret store, I'll give you a quick definition. A secret store is used to separate concerns of authentication and access. The secret store is therefore responsible for defining what provider will be connected to and what secret will be used. Cool. As you can see on the right, there's the corresponding Go code. As you can see, we have a secret source struct, and with the types on 170 and 171. On 170, we have our spec, which you can see directly corresponds to the YAML file on line number 5, and the spec is of type secret source spec. If you download the code, do a git clone of the code base, you can really dig as many rabbit holes as you'd like and see how the entire how it is all set up, which I'd really recommend. So once we have our secret store, we can look at the external secrets YAML. So the external secrets CRD defines what data to fetch. It references the secret store, as we can see on line 9, GCP-secret store, of kind secret store. And we also have a refresh interval, which lets the operator know how often you want this secret to be refreshed. And once again, on the right, you can see how the types correlate directly with the YAML, because, same thing. Onto the push secrets. So this is where the magic is, what we've been working on. You can see it looks very similar to everything else because we've been using, you can actually see from KubeBuilder there on 1, 2, 3. KubeBuilder is written in comments. So the thing we're most interested in over here is the bottom of the YAML file, line 18, remote key, and we have a very aptly named name for our secret, which is called foobar testy-test. So if we do a kubectl, let's actually just do a kubectl get push secret to start off with, just to make sure that there's we've deleted everything. Cool, that is not our secret. So that's the vault secret. So we're good to go. Nothing to do with GCP then. So let's do a kubectl describe deploy -n external secrets. What this is going to do is it's just going to describe our external secrets deployment. What's important, this is going to be a lot of information, but what's important here is if you scroll up all to the top, we go to our args, you will be able to see that the experimental enable push secret reconciler flag is set to true. And I know that's a very verbose name. I quite like it, mainly because I came up with it and I failed to change it later, so it's become official. But when you download ESO, once this is merged, you'll have to change this flag because it will automatically be set to false because, as I said earlier, this is an experimental feature. So when you install ESOs off the bat, it won't be included. Cool. So let's just make sure that we got no G-Cloud secrets lying about. So as I said, this is the cluster which we use for production. So there will be one secret in there which gets generated every morning in our pipeline called foobar, which will indicate to you why I called our remote key foobar testy test. I decided to come up with a completely new name. So there we go. We got our one secret, but that has been created ages ago, and that's not the one we're after. So once we apply our manifests with the kubectl apply-f, which is for file name, GCP, and we can see that our push secret is now created, and we already had our secret already existed. It just was not connected to the push secret, and we have our external secret deployment too. So let's see if we got our secret. Let's do a kubectl get push secrets. So we should see the name GCP push secret. Yes, they are. The live demo cards are with us today. Cool, 22 seconds old. It's synced. It's there. And if we want a more verbose view of this, we can do a describe. So it's the kubectl describe push secret, or kubectl, or as I've heard it called once or twice before, kubectl. I'm yet to use that properly. So over there, we got a more verbose description of what happened to our secret. We can see it's been synced. Scroll back down. As you can see, we created a lot of secrets today. Time that we created 7, and it's been successfully synced. So it's in our cluster. It's not Kubernetes cluster, but is it in G-Cloud? So let's do a G-Cloud secrets list. And we will have to include the project flag with the project name. Thank you. Very well prepared. Thank you. And hopefully we'll see foobar testy test. Fantastic. It works. We did this thing. Once again, we can get a more verbose view of this if you go G-Cloud secrets describe, and you give it the name of the secret, which is foobar testy test. And then the project flag, and then Kubernetes cluster ESO. Cool. And over there, we can see it's been managed by external secrets. Under the name, you can see the project ID, as well as where our secret is being stored in our secrets manager in GCP. Cool. So if we do a G-Cloud secrets version access latest, I know these commands are getting longer and longer, but it's usually the way things go when you want to get a bit more information. Versions, plural, plural on the versions. Thank you. Access latest, and then secret flag with foobar testy test, and then the project name. After this, we can. I think it'd be good to show that it actually exists in GCP, and we haven't just written a whole bunch of code which says something that it doesn't do. Cool. Let's see what this gives us. There we go. Sorry. I didn't explain myself properly. So if you go to the GCP secret YAML, that bar is always fussy. I think it's your Zoom bar. If you go to the menu on the left, you might have better luck. There we go. So as you can see under the data, this is our secret. There's a little encoded thing, and what G-Cloud has done is it's just declared our secrets, and it's given us what it says which is world. Cool. So should we have a look at Google Cloud just to confirm that our secret is there? If you go to actually let's stay in the terminal for now. Let's apply the manifest again. What I want to do with this is I just want to verify that if I apply the manifest again, it doesn't create the same secret. I mean, it doesn't push the same secret again or overwrite or do any nonsense which you don't want it to do. So we go there. As you can see, everything's been unchanged, so you don't have to worry about your secrets being overwritten. And if we do a kubectl describe push secrets, so we can get some events, we will hopefully see that nothing has changed. There we go. It's been synced. It's the one from just now. And that is the PushSecret functionality. So yeah, thank you. Once this is merged, I hope you have a play around with it. I hope you find it useful in your day-to-day. And we're working very hard to get the rest of the providers out there as soon as we can. Yeah, and thank you, Lily, for driving that. Cool.
That's
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dom. Thank you so much, Lily. That was a very cool presentation. And I'm quite certain that a lot of companies and a lot of individuals will be very excited to get their hands on the PushSecret capability. Without further ado, I will hand over to Gustavo, who will give us a contributing walkthrough.
Thank you, Charles. So if you ever wonder how you can contribute to ESO, we have a lot of ways that you can contribute. I think you can already pass the slide, Charles, then I will take to show it a little bit more live. The first thing that I want to mention is that we need help with people who want to maintain ESO. We need help with people that want to contribute with code to ESO. We need help to build up this community that we're trying to do, and even to create some code tours, which I'm going to show you just in a few minutes. The main idea is that if you really want to help, even if you're not into Golang, feel free to join. If you are trying to learn how to create a Kubernetes operator, feel free to join. If you are very experienced and just want to make the project grow faster, please feel free to join. That's the main message that I wanted to say here. Having said that, now I'm going to do a little bit of a walkthrough on how we can do some things around the code base. For that, I am going to screen share. So excuse me. The first thing that I wanted to point at, and it was one of the links that was available for you. I cannot open the chat for some reason. Because I want to put some link.
I'll share them for
I
you,
found
Gustavo.
it. Also done here. So this is a link for the code CMaps, which is basically a tool that allows to see the code base in more of a visual way. This is the one that is for the External Secrets project. Feel free to join. The first thing that I want to mention is these two folders here, docs and deploy. One of type of contribution that we appreciate a lot. If you found that it was hard to use ESO for any reason, the docs weren't clear enough, or you need the specific examples for some use cases, you can contribute to ESO by changing the docs. All of our documentation that is available in our page is handled by this docs folder. If I quickly open here, the documentation is basically a markdown file. So it's simply writing up, changing the file that you want to change, and submitting a PR. We really appreciate this type of contribution, okay? Afterwards, let's say that you don't necessarily want to contribute to ESO right now, but rather you need to configure your deployment somehow. The default installation that ESO provides, the Helm charts, are not enough. You can check the whole details on how to install ESO with this deploy folder. Here in this deploy folder, we have the chart definition. We have some manifest definition that you can also put. We have the CRDs definition. And this is the way that you can use as basis in order to properly move around, change around, and adapt to your own needs, case by case, of course. We also provide, although it's not here, we also provide, I can actually make it here, I think, somewhere. Not gonna find it right now, so sorry for that. We also provide a file called dockerfile.standalone. And this is a Docker file that automatically builds up ESO for you, so we won't need to download everything or install Go binaries servers in order to compile it. So it's easy for your setup. And last but not least, we have here at the right the code base itself for ESO. Before going to that one specific, let's say that you are someone that wants to still learn how to developing Golang or still want to get familiar with the code base, the first thing that I would recommend you to do is go into our issues and click on these good first issue labels. When you do that, you're going to be forwarded to some list of issues that we maintainers kind of curated and figure out they would be a good place to start. So the idea is that from this list, you can actually develop a little bit more your understanding on the R code base, understanding on Golang itself, understanding on Kubernetes operators, etc. If I go back a little bit here to code C, like I said, the main code is divided in these 3 folders. This first one relates to how our CRDs are defined. In ESO, we define our CRDs only via Golang structures. Will Odom actually kind of gave us a tour a little bit for the structures defined for the PushSecret functionality. So this folder contains all of our definitions. This folder here, the package folder, is where the code logic itself lives, either if it is provider specific or a generic code for the external secrets feature. And here on this command folder, we basically have some Golang definition for the binaries. So when we call the binary external secrets in our containers, in our Kubernetes deployments, this is where we define it. So that flag that Dom showed us enable push secret, experimental enable push secret reconciler, it is defined here in this file. Okay. Now, let's say that we want to start contributing. For instance, let's say we want to go for a specific implementation for a provider. In this case, implement validate method for Oracle provider. If we go back here to code C and open this package, now things get a little bit bigger. Sorry for that. Let me reorganize very quickly. In the package folder, we divided it to allow the templating code for the templating functionality, which is kind of an advanced feature in ESO. The controller code, this is where the logic of our controllers live. It can be the push secret or the external secret. And here the provider code is where provider specific features are developed. So if you wanted to check, obviously it's not going to be here. Sorry for that. If we want to check a specific thing about the Oracle provider that I was pointing, it is going to be available here in this Oracle folder. These are probably the files that we should look at. And in this case of this specific issue, which is implement a validate method, if I go now to the code base, this is the oracle.go file. This issue would be about defining this method here. It's basically verifying if we have a connectivity to the provider. And if I go to another provider that has this method implemented, in this case, GitLab, we kind of see an example on how we can do it. We just need probably to figure out any specific details that we need to check for Oracle provider. So this is a good way to start. As you can see, the implementation vary from 5 to 6 lines, maybe a little bit more, but nothing more than that. And if for some reason you still feel like that you don't really know what you should do, feel free to reach out to maintainers. We are here to help you out. That's kind of our job. So now let's say that we are already in a more advanced level and we don't necessarily want to go for a simple method. The other thing that we can probably do is go for some other more specific labels. Here, I'm going to go for implementing a new provider. So this is the label. And these are the providers that are currently open, as you can see. In order to implement a feature for a provider, then we need to go a little bit more onto the code base. And here is one of the things that Code C really allows us to do, and it's really nice. It's called a code tour. We already have defined our first code tour, which is called adding a new provider. And it gives us step-by-step definition on where we should do on the code base to actually implement the provider. So you can see that this is kind of a nice feature to have. It's easy to understand, easy to follow, and we can understand where should we put our code in a specific thing in order to make this provider, a specific provider implementation work. Okay. Big breath now. Next thing that I wanted to mention, if you want to delve into contributing to ESO from a code perspective, you should definitely check our contributing dev guide. This is the page that basically helps you out to have everything installed and in place in order to start contributing. And you should also see this contributing process just to understand how we follow if a PR can and should be approved or not. There are a little bit of tests that you need to do, some checks that you need to pass. That's why this developer guide actually helps you. It helps us and helps you to get your contribution online faster. Okay. Having said that, I just want to point one specific thing, going back to the provider implementation. Let's say we do want to start a new provider. I will go with the fake provider here just to show how would be the logic. This is also defined in a high level in code C, in the code tour that we just passed. The first step to define a new provider would actually be to define the CRDs that we want that provider to have. In the case of the fake provider, we only have a data field, and this data field contains the secret. The idea is that we are faking the provider, right? So it's a very simple implementation. After we define what we need, we add the provider that we want into this secret store provider structure. And from a CRD point of view, that's all we need to do. Your code on this point is already available to configure the new provider that we have, in this case, the fake provider. After we do that, we need to define the code logic for the provider itself. And in order to do so, the things that we need to do is implement these methods here. Every provider should have a new client, a validate store, a get secret, a validate, a get secret map, a get all secrets, and a close. The idea is that these are the functions that will allow all of the features from the external secrets. So if we think about doing a data operation, the underlying function that is called is the get secret. If we want to do a data from extract, is the get secret map. And if we want to do a data from find, it is the get all secrets. So once we have this implementation in place, this is how we make the provider to work. The thing that I want to mention here is that even though we need to have the signatures in place, we don't need to implement everything in a batch because maybe your provider cannot handle the get all secrets method, cannot really go with data from find operations. The fake provider is actually a good example of that. Here we can see that we have defined a new client, we have defined a get secret and a get secret map. And these are very simple operations because, again, it is a fake provider, right? But for the get all secrets, we didn't see any use case to implement it on the fake provider level. We didn't see any use for it. So we just simply defined the signature and said that it is not implemented. And this is perfectly fine, even for other providers. It's really, there is no issue in contributing only the feature that you need right now and leave other people to contribute the other functionality, the other features when they need, okay? And after that, once you do that, basically what you need to do is open a PR. Depending on the provider, we might ask for a little bit of change or help you with some implementation. For instance, you maybe have implemented some piece of code that we already have a function that does it, a helper function. So we will guide you through that. And that's it. Generally speaking, is quite fun, I don't know, well separated thing to do. And you get to learn a lot. That's all that I had to say from this preview. Let me just go back to the presentation here. because I want just to give you some more time to point to these links. All of these links here are the links from the external secrets issues, but with the filters there. You can also apply the filters with the labels for these three. And here we have the QR codes for the developer guide, the contributing process, and the code C. Just a reminder that the code C is actually free to access. You don't need to have an account, and you can already explore. If you want to add a code tour, which we would also love if you could, then we need to set up some permissions to you in the code C account. So that's why if you want to do that, please contact us and we will be sure to add you. Okay. So having said that, back to Charles. You're probably going to go back to the presentation, but I don't mind.
Good guess, good guess. So thank you, everyone. That brings the ESO meetup to a close. But before you all run away and quickly go and enjoy your evenings, I would like to ask you guys to give us a little bit of a feedback. If you are watching this on a recording, please give us your feedback too. We'd love to hear from you. And lastly, I just want to say thank you, if my slides agree. Thank you.
Can I ask one question of Dom and Lily? If anybody wants to join the mobs that you're running, which are pretty much on a daily basis, what's the best way for them to find out how to do that?
We don't actually have anything formal set up, but I think that's something I can probably work on tomorrow. I guess the best way now would just be to DM one of us on GitHub, but that's not the right way to do it. So I will look into setting something up. So when whoever uses video, hopefully something will be up and running.
Yeah, and I think if anybody wants to, they can feel free to reach out to any of us on the Kubernetes Slack in the external secrets channel, and we can find a way to include them. I assume the mobs are all run on Google Meet?
Zoom.
They're all on Zoom. Okay, great.
Yeah, but it's the same Zoom room all the time. So once you have the link, you're good to go.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, we have a stand-up every weekday at 1:45 BST. So be a good time to join.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Lily. Does anybody have any other questions before we close out? Okay, great. I will stop the recording now.